Hey, what's up everyone? Today we're going to discuss a developer's post that divided fans. Some were upset, while others accepted it without much issue. The chief creative officer is open to a Helldivers 2 tabletop game, talks about a crossover, a voice actor claims to be John Helldiver, and there's so much more I'll be covering. If you can, make sure to share the video and tap the like button below, and let's get right into it. Let's start off with the developer and chief creative officer's post that sparked a bit of outrage from players. Now, Mr. Pilestedt has replied back to more posts about his recent discussion on DEI. So before we go over the new post, I'd like to refresh you all on what he said recently. I talked about this a little bit before. I didn't find the post to be upsetting. However, it seems a few thought the chief creative officer was being a little careless and not caring for diversity, equity, and inclusion. We went over this last time, but if you check out this post right here, the chief creative officer responded to a player who said to not include DEI in their games. And Pilestedt essentially said that anything that doesn't enhance the gameplay actually diminishes it, and that games ought to focus solely on creating extraordinary experiences. With that said, I personally took this post as him not dismissing or accepting what the player has stated. It's basically a middle ground post. Unfortunately, it appears that this didn't settle well with a few players. One person called him a coward. Another player said, "Yikes, why are you replying to this?" And there's more in the comments. So again, I didn't take Mr. Pilestedt's post as a hateful post. He didn't deny or accept anything. It was more about replying back with an opinion about how games should be overall, not specifically about DEI. Sure, the original statement by the player was about DEI, but I don't think that was his response about DEI. It was just about games overall, that you should just focus on creating fun games. Anyways, that's how I perceived it. In the second post he responded to, he mentioned that he dislikes labels, but pointed out that there's a significant xenophobia on Super Earth. He also emphasized making good games and not engaging in contemporary political debates. Right, so he's not wrong. Just create good games, have fun with it, leave the political stuff out of it, and enjoy creating games. And that goes for both sides, right? You just want to have good games overall. Nobody wants to get into the political stuff. But overall, nothing he said was hateful or disregarding beliefs in general. It was mainly a response that didn't have any sort of opinion except for just create good games. That's literally it. However, even if that's the case, it was perceived by other players that his statement wasn't right. Someone called him spineless, and other players said they disagree with Pilestedt's post. In my opinion, I don't think he was being spineless or wasn't agreeing to one side over the other. With that being said, we have a new response from the chief creative officer when a player replied back to Pilestedt's post, stating that the players asking him about DEI was bait. In response, Pilestedt wrote back with this: "Thank you, but even so, what society will we become if we distance ourselves from each other for the fear of others? Discourse is the foundation of a healthy society, and diversity of opinion is how we collectively decide where to go. Conversation is the relief valve of society." There's a response he received from that post from a different player that said people were just twisting his words around to spread hate campaigns. So before we continue forward, I'd like to know your opinion on this matter. Do you think he was agreeing with one side over the other, or was his response basically about games in general rather than making a political statement over it? As I've said, I don't think he was agreeing with anyone, and I believe his response was taken out of context. But feel free to let me know your thoughts about this so far in the comments below. Continuing along, Pilestedt replied back to that post that stated how people were twisting his words around to spread hate, and in response, Pilestedt wrote back and said, "Agreed, there is always going to be that way. If I say something to 100 people, I will have said 100 different things. That's why follow-up questions are so important, as long as they're in good faith to seek understanding, not try to get someone." Exactly, I couldn't agree more. I completely understand where he's coming from, and his response were not aimed at directly offending anyone. Whether you're for DEI or if you're not, I mean, it doesn't matter. Unfortunately, everything was blown out of proportion and his words were twisted around. His post received hate, acceptance, and Sally was also twisted around to serve a different narrative. It sucks to see this happen. I absolutely don't believe that Pilestedt was catering to anyone's opinion or belief. Instead, he was just stating how games should be fun and not based around the political belief, which means he's not stating his opinion about DEI or anything political. It's just about loving games in general and creating good games that us players will love. Lastly, before we switch topics, he replied to one more post about it. One person mentioned that it's not worth the PR hassle, and right here Pilestedt said this in response: Fair point. Council culture is one of the worst sides of online interaction, but it's not something new. It's the same people that bully at school. I hope this video clears up any sort of confusion because Pilestedt seems like a solid developer as well as a chief creative officer that has a great mindset when it comes down to creating games. With that said, I already asked, but just in case you missed it, what are your thoughts about this? Do you think he was catering to one side, or do you think he was just talking about video games in general rather than stating his own political opinion? Let's talk about it in the comments below. Alright, putting that conversation aside, we have a crossover question that was asked, and a Helldiver wanted to know if there's a chance we'll see a collab that introduces new enemies within a faction. Pilestedt gave a response back and said that the enemy factions should stay as they are, although he did mention the possibility of a time-limited event in the future, but it's not a priority right now. I think a great crossover, with that in mind, would either be a Dead Space or an Alien collab. Imagine seeing a Xenomorph on the battlefield with the same cloak and ability that the Stalkers have. Wouldn't that be scary and also fun at the same time? I would love to see that or Necromorphs from Dead Space. They could even add a war bond that could be purchased with super credits. Speaking of aliens, there's another Helldiver that brought up a question about the USMC from the Alien series, and if they're willing to create a tier collab like they did with Killzone 2. Pilestedt in response suggested that they should keep focusing on Helldivers for now to maintain the integrity of an IP and to not dilute the IP as well. However, he expressed enthusiasm for incorporating USMC weaponry, notably the M56, into the game. On a similar note, the developer and chief creative officer is willing to collaborate with Warlord Games to create a tabletop game for Helldivers. It all started when Pilestedt created a post with an image right here, stating that this is a crossover he can get behind with a laughing emoji. Then after that was said, he revealed to another Helldiver that he's a huge fan of bolt action and would enthusiastically support a collaboration with Warlord Games to create a tabletop version of Helldivers if they were interested. I'd probably purchase it to support the developers, and it would be awesome to display on a shelf or something like that, right? I think the fans or the community in general would be excited for this. Continuing along, recently I talked about how there's a secret with the flag missions and how saluting will actually increase the speed, especially if you have Helldivers in your squad doing the same exact thing. Well, there's more to it. I saw a comment in the previous video, which you'll see right here. It turns out you could do this for most objectives that require waiting. Now, to be fair, I think this might be for all objectives, but I'm not exactly sure how many objectives are like this. For instance, the ICBM mission is one of those. If you salute to the nuke as it's rising up, the speed will increase so that you can get it done faster. If there are more Helldivers nearby saluting, this will significantly help with the speed. What I'll do is show a better comparison considering last time I didn't do a great job at, showing the differences. So I'll correct myself and show what it looks like when you're saluting and not saluting. With that being said, right here you can tell that the top right bar starts at the same exact time with this side-by-side comparison. And you can see that it slightly increases the speed. Not only that, as I've said, if you have more members in the squad doing the same exact thing, the speed will increase more. This also appears to be the same situation for the SAM side as well. What you can see here is the same exact thing. A side-by-side, I started off by emoting on one side, and then the other side I didn't emote at all. So overall it might apply to all objectives that have a waiting time on them. In theory, you should be able to complete these objectives way faster by just saluting. Yep, so if you didn't know about this, then let me know by tapping the like button below the video. Last but not least, do you recall watching the Game Awards? Specifically the Helldivers 2 Illuminate announcement, where the voice actor popped up on stage and essentially announced the trailer. He's the same person that voiced the character in the HD2 trailer. What's interesting is just recently, players on Reddit noticed that he changed his bio on Instagram. It is now John Helldiver and Helldivers 2. It's officially confirmed that this dude is indeed John Helldiver. Now that's awesome. For a while now, we were unsure who John Helldiver was, but at the same time, we had a good idea of who it was. Yet now it's confirmed, and John Helldiver is voiced by Craig. The more you know, right? Now, we need to know who Jane Diver is. This was something that was brought up in the previous patch notes in the past. However, there's no word yet on, exactly who Jane Diver is. What we're going to do now is talk about your suggested loadouts. If you guys have posted one in the past, post it again and I might select it. Right here we have a comment by Dieterak, who posted the Lonely Phantom loadout. For armor, we're going to choose any light armor with the engineering kit. We have the throwable, which is going to be either the smoke grenades or stun grenades. I prefer stun. That's just my personal preference. what I'd like to do is throw down the stun grenade and then use the counter sniper to shoot the bots. Next, the secondary is either the Redeemer or Senator. I prefer the Senator since you can shoot the pelvis on the rocket striders and take them out easily. Now for stratagems, we have the jump pack, which pairs well with the Stalwart or the MG43, considering you can actually reload mid-air with it, if you didn't know. The third one is going to be the orbital precision strike, which you can take out Hulks and also some of those fabricators as well. Then last but not least, we have the Eagle 500 kg bomb or Eagle napalm. The Eagle napalm is not bad on bots, you can use it on them, but I prefer the Eagle 500 kg because, you know, why not? You can take out multiple enemies with it. So all in all, is it good or bad? I highly suggest you use this loadout the next time you're fighting the bots. It's pretty helpful. I'm sure you guys have probably used something similar in the past, but it's good. There's nothing bad about it, and I have no, negativity or any remarks about it. It's pretty good. With that being said, this is your Helldivers 2 news. We're now going to talk about the top 3 comments. If you guys would like to be featured on the video, all you have to do is comment down below. The first top comment is from RockZ772. The 13% buff from saluting the flag is also applied to ICBM missiles when it's raising salute the nuke. Yep, so that right there, we talked about that earlier in today's video, and I didn't know about it. I honestly didn't until I tested out a few more objectives. So thank you for posting this. The second top comment is by Greg Andrews, and thank you for commenting again, bud. I always enjoy seeing you in the comments. You said, I'm thinking maybe it would be better to have the full shop on display and keep it at full price, but keep the rotating shop as a discount rack. That way there is no FOMO, but if people choose to wait for the armors, they can benefit from it. You know what? I absolutely love this idea. It's actually a really good one, and maybe that's something they'll consider doing at some point. There's a lot of armors I haven't been able to pick up, and that right there would give me the chance for sure to pick it up rather than waiting for the rotation. The second comment is by Gaspar2934. Right here you mentioned about the vote list turning into overseers. I think they're more likely to turn into the big mutant Illuminate. Remember that it was called Ghoul or something, leaked some time ago. Mostly because the overseers have the second pair of arms hidden in the armor, so it's unlikely to mutate a vote list into growing those arms just to hide it into their armor. While the Ghoul has a second pair of arms, more in line with human mutating into one of the squids, while also lacking armor and having big shoulders similar to the Voltless. Now, if this ends up becoming true, I'll be sure to bring your comment up in a future video, but that right there would be insane to see the Voltless turn into some sort of big mutant Illuminate. I think that would be awesome. Those right there are the top 3 comments. If you guys would like to give this video a like, definitely do it. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and share this video out. I appreciate all the support as always. If you guys have any comments about the video or anything that you would like to know about, feel free to comment down below and I'll be sure to reply back. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.